Okay, good. Hello, I am Nina Newman. I am the Director of Admission and Financial Access at King School, and I wanted to welcome you today to our event where we're going to talk about the lower school and specifically, what happens beyond the classroom. Because at King, we really feel strongly about educating the whole child and tapping into their talents and passions as part of an education that helps kids become the best versions of themselves. And we have upcoming copies and conversations about our approach to teaching and learning and sort of an overview of King in general, where we'll dive a little deeper into the academic piece. And if we have time today, we're happy to answer some academic questions, but we'd really love to spend some time talking about the ways in which we respect childhood and engage our kids at that level to help them really develop confidence, curiosity, and a sense of self. So I'm going to let my colleagues introduce themselves. I'll go on my screen, starting with you, Kara. If you would introduce yourself, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Kara Grimaldi, and I'm the lower school music teacher for grades pre-K through 5. And I'm also the diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator for the lower school. So what that means is that in the lower school, I'm charged with making sure that our curriculum is, and our school climate and our practices sort of reflect a global perspective. So we want our students to be looking at the world through an inclusive lens, which means choosing literature that reflects multiple perspectives and identities, bringing in speakers to educate teachers on what it means to teach in a culturally responsive way, and just generally allowing our students to understand what it means to be a culturally responsive person and a citizen of the global world, which starts by being a kind and inclusive member of our King community. So nice to be here. Thank you for being here, everyone.
Thanks, Kara. Heather?
Hi, my name is Heather Wagner. I am the assistant head of the lower school for pre-K through 5, as well as the director of teaching and learning. And my role is primarily to work with teachers, supporting them with curriculum, helping them with students. I push into classrooms daily, working with small groups and sometimes teaching lessons. And then I also work really closely with the head of the lower school in terms of just making sure our curriculum is on point, families are supported. And then on top of that, I work with families. So I have a great job. I love working with kids every day. And even though I'm administration, the best part of my job is going into classrooms, getting on the carpet with pre-Kers, watching them play, because play is the work of young children. Or even just yesterday, I got to teach a math lesson in 4th grade. So I have a great job and I'm really excited just to answer some of your questions.
Thanks, Heather. Erica?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Pomerantz. I am the lower school psychologist. My role is, there's a couple of different aspects of my role. One that is new this year is we are introducing something called balance blocks. It is a lower school wide intervention. I get to go into all the classrooms and do developmentally appropriate work on helping children with emotional regulation, with mindfulness, with executive functions, so that their social and emotional learning is a focus of what we do here at King. I also get to partner with teachers to offer them support in the classrooms, and I'm available to parents for support if they need.
Thank you, Erica. There is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So if you have some questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to add them in there. I'm going to get the ball rolling with just a follow-up question to Erica's introduction. For parents who are listening who don't feel at this time that their children need intervention in those areas, how does this program enrich those students' lives, and why is it sort of an important part of our curriculum?
Absolutely. So there is lots and lots of research out there that talks about how mindfulness and helping children manage and regulate their emotions, calming their body, calming their mind, actually supports their academic success, because it allows them to be curious, allows them to think flexibly, allows them to problem solve. And so as you talked about kind of the whole child approach, part of helping kids to expand the way that they think is to help them learn about the way that they think. And so that's why we do this across all grades for all kids.
Thank you so much. Heather, could you talk a little bit about the schedule of the day, how the days look for our kids and how we try to weave into the day both some breaks for kids and also things that we might consider co-curricular, but some of our families on this webinar might think of them as extracurricular activities.
Okay, sure. So all of the students begin their day in their homeroom, and everyone begins with a morning meeting. We follow responsive classroom for our social emotional learning curriculum. And the most important part of the morning meeting is that every student is greeted by name, and it really creates a sense of belonging, community. They then will go through their schedules so they know exactly what is going to happen. And most days after the morning meeting, students have a special. And this year in particular, we have broken our specials into half groups. So half of the class would stay in the homeroom and the other half might go to music. And during the homeroom time, it can be a variety of things happening. It could be a math lesson, it could be a phonics lesson, it could be a writing lesson, and the groups would switch. Then we would have snack together. We might have a nature walk or some outside time just to burn off some steam. And then they would come back in and they might have a whole group lesson in writing workshop. And then we typically have lunch and recess. And we are very fortunate that we have a beautiful campus and we take advantage of it in terms of recess. We use the turf field, we have a playground and the kids in a courtyard. You'll often see pre-Kers. They have trikes and just racing around the courtyard as quick as they can. And then the afternoon, they might come back in, they might have story time, or in the upper grades, they might have some quiet reading time. And then again, they will work in half groups going to a special, perhaps Spanish, and the other half would stay, and then they flip-flop. And most days, 4 out of the 5 days, students participate in PE, which we think is really an important aspect of our program. And then at the end of the day, they have closing meeting, where they will often share what we call sometimes a rose and a thorn. So what's the best part of your day? What's the part of the day that you wish you could change over, or what might you do differently tomorrow? And then it's dismissal. So it's a busy day, and it's jam-packed with lots of learning, lots of time for also to go outside and have that physical aspect that we know that students need those breaks. And yeah, that's pretty much a typical day for everybody from pre-K to 5.
Excellent, thank you. Erica, there's a question for you following up again on the balance blocks. If you could give an example of an exercise you might conduct in a 2nd grade classroom.
Absolutely. I actually just came from 2nd grade. What I'm doing is, it's not just exercises. So we're building a whole curriculum. We're beginning with a program called Generation Mindful, where the kids find ways to use, I think I'm echoing, language to talk about their feelings, to scale how their feelings, and to build empathy and compassion and have these conversations with their peers. We're also building mood meters so that they're not only talking about how they feel, but being able to gauge it and regulate it, so that we can now move towards strategies that they can use to regulate big feelings when they happen in the classroom, so that they're able to focus on their work, so that they're able to make connections with peers, and so that they're able to continue with their learning.
Great, thank you so much. Kara, could you talk a little bit about the role that music and performing arts play in the lower school, like maybe specifically the 5th grade musical, and sort of how you build up to that pinnacle?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So actually, I feel really lucky that at King School, the arts, visual arts and performing arts are just as important a part of the day as, the other academics and the other specials classes. So Our program is basically, we have a general music, instrumental, and choral program sort of all working in conjunction with each other. And our main goal is to help students become tuneful, beatful, and artful. So they're able to sing in tune, they're able to keep a steady beat with music, and they're able to be expressive with their art. And those are the three elements of performing arts that we think helps kids to be lifelong musicians or lifelong music lovers, whichever sort of path they take. So all throughout kindergarten or pre-K, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, we're playing instruments age appropriately, and we're singing in age appropriate ways. And then we're learning about music, and we're learning music literacy. So all of this sort of builds up musically to a fifth grade musical, which happens in the winter every year, or I should say fifth grade performance, really, because it's sort of an all-encompassing dramatic and musical experience. And how it builds up is basically that students participate in music 2 to 3 times a week in a normal year in each grade. So they're having experiences moving to music. They're having experiences singing in parts, 2 different parts together. They're having experiences doing dramatic play in the music classroom and also in their classrooms. So that this culminating experience in 5th grade is it's just that, it's a culminating experience that that each grade leads up to. And I think also the fact that music and visual arts as well is happening, like I said, in the classroom every week, rather than sort of as this aside enrichment thing. It's really an in-class experience.
Thanks, Kara. There's a question here about the interaction that lower school students have with middle school and upper school students. And of course, right now in the times of COVID-19, that is not happening very much. I think there might be a few kids who are upper school students who work in our aftercare program still, but we have had less cross-divisional experiences this year. Heather, are there a couple times so that you could share with us when there is some in a normal year, some crossover between the different divisions?
Sure. So typically what we usually do is we have a middle school buddy program with 1st and 7th grade, and then that pairing remains throughout the time in the lower school. We're working on how we could continue that this year virtually. Other moments where we have interaction is during Spirit Week. We get paired, each grade is paired with a varsity team. So for example, pre-K might be basketball, and they make them a super fan poster to put up for the team, and then the captains will come over and read the pre-K a story, and that happens all the way through 5th grade. And then also during our global studies program last spring, the middle school students came over and actually helped with some of the integration of the projects in terms of technology, really helping the students. They were working on maps, and the middle school students taught the 4th graders how to use some technology to read the maps. So if it was typical, those are the types of interactions we have.
Thanks, Heather. Erica, this is a question about how King cultivates strong peer relationships. Maybe that's something you could start off with.
Absolutely. So I think generally it's integrated into every interaction that students have with each other in the classroom. Teachers are really mindful and attentive to how children speak to one another, how they scaffold working through conflicts, how they facilitate relationships that make children feel secure and build self-esteem. I think there's the additional support that I'm here, that if there are children who need to manage particular conflicts, I am available and I do work with them. But generally, I think we value diversity, we value appreciating difference in others, and the teachers make sure that children take those values on as their own.
Thanks, Erica. I think that was such a great question because one of the things we talk a lot about at King is how, especially as the kids get older, they really see each other as inspiration instead of competition. And a lot of that foundation is built in our lower school. When I walk around the lower school building, I'll see in every grade examples of our virtues: respect, perseverance, integrity, and kindness. So you can see that those aren't just words we put on our website. Those are words that we really actively talk about with our students in the classes. And as Erica said, we sort of refer to those virtues, during every interaction to help kids learn how to be really good friends and really good supports to each other. So I was glad that that question came up. Heather, I think this one is for you. It's about world languages, and specifically, in addition to when students are introduced to it, but how do we handle students who might have a higher fluency level than the other students in their grade?
Sure. So we have Spanish in the lower schools taught starting in pre-K all the way through fifth. As the students get older, the frequency of the classes amp up. In pre-K, it looks a little different. She pushes in and works with them more on their level, just talking more about joining morning meeting. And then it's slowly, as we go up, when we're in first grade, they're going twice a week, third grade, etc. If there's students that are native Spanish speakers, our Spanish teacher, Senora, is fantastic about working with students after school. She meets with those students and does enrichments with them as well. This year, we added in a Spanish library. And so for certain students, once they hit grade 3, we're sending that home in addition to their regular reading.
Great, thank you so much. And then there's a question about the lower school makerspace, and how often different teachers use that. Kara, is that something you could tackle a little bit? Because I think I think Heather would sort of go broad, but I'd love to hear, what your experience has been. Have you been able to use that in music, or has that been in more other classes?
Yeah, so I think the makerspace is a real opportunity for that cross-curricular connection to happen. I might use the makerspace in conjunction with maybe a sound lesson with, I know there's a sound unit in first grade science, so we might bring materials from the lower school music room and set them up in the makerspace, and it's just kind of a big space that students can use to make and explore. So that cross-curricular connection is definitely there, yes. But
Great.
Heather,
And what would
you could probably talk
go
more
ahead.
specifically about the use of the makerspace in the classroom as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, Heather, what would you add?
Right. I would add, I think what Kara said is spot on. And then how we use it is we have a calendar, and teachers are encouraged to sign up whenever they'd like to go to the makerspace. And it's often, sometimes for the little ones, it's just a free build. But for some of the older ones, for example, last year in grade 1, they study Stanford and how the city works. And they were studying how important different buildings are in the downtown. And so then they went to the makerspace and they built the downtown using using the block, sorry. And it's a great space. We have, I think, over 3,000 building blocks that the students have access to of different shapes and sizes. And they are taught how to use it respectfully, but that the block is a tool for learning. So there's rules about how you build, how you unbuild, how you respect people's buildings. And it's a great space, and the teachers are encouraged to use it as much as they want, and as well as the specialists.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Heather. Erica, this question is about how we help transition new students into the school community. Is that a question you could tackle?
Sure. I think even in the time of Corona, we were able to do this. We had paired up new students. They joined lunch groups. They were paired with buddies so that they were able to start building relationships with current students even before they came on campus for the beginning of the school year. And then I think once they arrive at school, there's focused efforts made on helping them to become an integrated part of the community, where they, even if they are joining a class that relationships have been in existence for a long time, we help them to build those relationships at whatever point it is that they join us in their career.
Great, thank you. And I will just add on that families report back to us how seamless that transition was. It's never easy to be new. The first day is always a little scary, but we do, as Erica mentioned, a few things ahead of time to help make it feel less scary. And then when they actually arrive on campus, they're greeted by welcome faces. We do a photo book for the teachers, so your homeroom teacher will know you by name because they sort of know what you look like and who to expect. And so a lot of families comment to us that it just was even easier than they expected it to be. Heather, we've talked a little bit about all these different extracurricular activities. What is the school's approach to homework in the lower school? How do we expect a kid to manage everything?
So we, all the way from pre-K to 5, we have something called a connection folder. And every child has one. It goes home every night and comes back every morning. And that is how we send home work, how we send home notices, and we use it for homework. We call it a connection folder because it's a connection between home and school. And so in the younger grades, homework looks like just playing. For pre-K, K, we're asking them to play. Right around now in kindergarten, we're starting to send home books. We send home math games that they have learned to play as a family. When they get to first grade, they start the year with, we send home books regularly. Each night a book goes home, a book comes back the next day, math games, and we also employ our online platforms. We have several learning platforms that we use for students in terms of math, phonics, reading. And so we do require, starting in first grade, that they use the online platforms for approximately 30 minutes a week. And then as they go up in the years, it increases. So starting in third grade, they get a weekly checklist. They are also starting to get math reinforcement sheets, social studies projects. And then in fifth, they have a planner. So we're prepping them for the middle school. So instead of having the weekly checklist, they're responsible for writing in the planner. And a typical fifth grade week looks like reading for 40 to 50 minutes per night. They're also using the online platforms, but at an increased amount of time and frequency throughout the week, as well as they need to study for vocabulary tests, math tests. So it's a gradual increase with supports as we grow from pre-K to 5.
Great, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about our enrichment program. Is that still you, Heather? We offer different enrichment opportunities for students after school. And I think they're usually, are they about a 6-week session?
They're about 6 weeks. We offer several after school and one during the school day, which is chess. And so chess happens during lunch, which is it's great. The kids love it. And then some of the after school enrichments we've offered right now, we have a STEAM club. We have a martial arts. In the past, we've also had yoga. We have had a math club. Really it's such a variety. So we had drama one year too, so it kind of changes, and this year it's a little bit we're restricted again due to COVID, but we are having martial arts, STEAM club, and we always have a King Cares club as well.
Great,
I think
thank
there's
you.
robotics this year as well.
Oh, and
right?
robotics,
Yeah.
There's robotics, yeah.
And some, like in a normal year, there would also be, I would usually do a vocal ensemble for 3rd through 5th grade. Last year I did a kindergarten through 2nd grade after school music. So it is a little bit restricted this year, but in a normal year, it kind of runs the gamut in terms of, what is your child interested in and what can they get interested in from going to these enrichments. So it's a really nice variety of offerings.
We mentioned earlier how important it is for kids to come into the school and to be known and to feel a part of the community. And in my introduction, I talked a little bit about helping kids pursue their talents and their interests. I wonder if you could each just say, sort of from your respective roles, why you think that's so important. Why you feel like really grounding kids in a sense of belonging has such an impact on them in our lower school.
So I can talk a little bit about, from my perspective, why that is so important. I think I know when kids feel safe and secure and they trust their teachers and they trust their peers, their learning looks better. They're more likely to take risks. They're more likely to think creatively. They're more likely to be able to come up with solutions to problems that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to think about. And so when they feel like they have that safe community, their learning really goes places that it isn't typically able to go.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that, Erica. And I would say, you know, in the music room, and I know in the art room as well, we are working really hard on building a safe community where students are feel welcome and want to take risks and want to create and want to explore. And, you know, in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion work, that means seeing yourself in the classroom. That means seeing yourself in books. That means, you know, knowing that your teacher and your peers respect you no matter who you are, where you're from, what you look like. And so that just is a really big focus, and it's really important to the school.
And I would just echo everything they said and share that one of the reasons we chose to go with responsive classroom as our social emotional learning curriculum is because research shows how important having a strong sense of self and belonging really impacts a child's learning, and that we really see when a child feels safe is they are willing to take that next leap, to raise their hand and share an answer that they might not have been able to do before. And we really, I feel this year especially, even though we had to get creative in how we do our morning meeting due to COVID, I really, I think of some of the new students, some of which unfortunately hadn't had a chance to even be on campus before because they were accepted, you know, during COVID, but that they really, some of the best comments teachers have said is they felt it feels like they've always been part of the community. And I really truly think that that sense of belonging and community that we focus on just allows students just to grow and be like the best version of themselves they can be. And it's a really special thing to be part of as an educator, but also I can also speak as a parent, as my child is in the kindergarten class. And so it's also wonderful to experience it from the parent side as well.
Thanks, Heather. So this is a question about remote learning if school closed. So I will just take a minute to tell you how fortunate we are that we were able to open this fall with all of our lower school students being here 5 days a week. And it's been fabulous. We were able to do some work on the building to expand our classrooms for social distancing. As Heather mentioned earlier, we were able to do some hiring so that we could break the kids into smaller groups so that they could still have their music and science and computer science classes. And we have been able to take advantage of our beautiful campus to get the kids outside as much as possible, both in truly academic settings. We have an outdoor science classroom, for example, but also for opportunities to take a mask break or to just run and get some fresh air and have a little bit of freedom. So we've been feel very fortunate to have had the space and the budget to be able to make all of that happen for our students. In terms of if we have to go back to remote learning, which we of course did last spring, Heather, do you want to talk a little bit about how that would work? I don't think we have to get too into the weeds, but just sort of superficial of how that works.
We really focused this summer, faculty really focused on PG&D around remote learning. And we were really strategic about which classes and supports the teachers would receive. And so due to that, we have a very strong online platform that our new director of innovation and technology has helped the lower school create. And we have already built our schedules. So if we had to go remote, we're ready to go right away. And part of our work during the fall has been making sure that students feel comfortable with the online platforms. And we have also been able, as Nina said, we're really fortunate, we're able to have one-to-one iPads and computers for kindergarten through 5th. And so really making sure those students feel confident on their computer or their iPad, they feel confident with the platforms, and the teachers received a lot of training around the platforms. And so now we feel really prepared if we were to go remote with schedules, curriculum, and the teachers, I think we're ready to go. We're, knock on wood, we want to stay in person as long as we can, but we're prepared, and we're prepared to go remote if needed be.
Thank you. I'm going to take the last few minutes of this webinar to talk about the admission process, but I will let our panelists head off to do the important work that they do in our lower school every day. Thanks for taking the time to chat with our prospective families. I'm sure they really appreciated it.
Thanks, Nina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hopefully you've had a chance to check out our website at this time, and you'll see that we are committed to 100% virtual admission experience for our families who elect to do that. We don't want families to feel that they have to come to campus. We want them to feel like they really can get all of the information that you need from our website and through the different virtual tours that we offer and our Zoom conversations that we'll have, and of course these coffees and conversations. For families who really do want to get onto campus, we are offering some tours during when kids are not on campus, so after school and occasionally on Saturdays. So once you have submitted your application, you will be speaking with Meryl Schaefer, who is our Associate Director of Admission for Lower School, and she would schedule a time for you to come and visit the school if that's something you would like to do. In terms of parent interviews, that will happen during Zoom. So that happens over Zoom, whether you want to come for a tour or not. And that way we can make sure that we really can have a meaningful conversation with you and understand your child and understand your family, and speak specifically about how King could be the right fit for you without having to worry about masks and social distancing. I would encourage you to look at the video on the website. That is a video where I walk you through how to get to know King through the website. It really sort of shows you some of the pages where you will get to know testimonials, where you'll learn how to do the virtual tours. We have a couple different options for virtual tours, and it's our intention to really help you get to know the school despite these trying times. And lastly, I just wanted to encourage you to call us and email us. One of the reasons we work at admission is because we love building relationships with families, and that partnership that we feel is a hallmark to the King education. We always say that you're an expert on your kids, we're an expert on education, and together we can really create the optimal learning environment for your child. That partnership starts during the admission process. So even if you think it's something that was covered today, or it might be somewhere on the website, we welcome phone calls, we welcome emails. We think of it as an opportunity to connect with you and starting to build a relationship. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for joining us. Please keep an eye out on the Coffee and Conversation page, as we'll be adding additional offerings that will cover academics and other topics that you might find interesting. And please consider coming to our open house on November 8th. It is virtual, but it will be an opportunity for you to really get to know the teachers, which is going to be a challenge this year. So that November 8th date is really important. There'll be some activities for kids in different disciplines. There'll be some videos for you to watch. It should be a really great experience. So you can just go to our website and register for the open house on November 8th, and we will send you the login information, and we will show you around King. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye.